I just think Diego has done enough for the sport where we don't really need to see him do anything else. The sad side is that we don't get to see Diego do anything else.
What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
There you go.
So, Nick, we got a bit of sad news today to talk about. Diego Sanchez. And I feel like this was something that was coming for a long time. A lot of people were suggesting that it might be a bit overdue. But Diego Sanchez is officially now no longer a UFC fighter.
Right.
Sort of weird set of circumstances that led to that. Neither his head coach, Josh Fabia, or his attorney would confirm to the UFC or to the commission that Diego was not suffering some sort of short or long-term physical or mental illness or incapability. And that is obviously a prerequisite to be locked inside of a cage to fight in professional mixed martial arts. As such, the fight with Cowboy Cerrone was scrapped, and Diego was consequently cut. This is kind of a weird situation that is... We got to the end result that we thought we knew was coming, which was Diego no longer fighting in the UFC, but we got there in kind of a weird way, didn't we?
Yeah, and I guess we'll have to chalk it up to being bittersweet because you wanted to see Diego Sanchez when we're kind of promised a final fight, to see him actually get to do that and get to do it in the UFC, the place where he really created his entire legacy and made his career in the UFC. I think he has the most fights, if not he's in the top 3.
Yeah.
And there's people that... I don't really see the new era of fighters catching up with some of those old dogs like Diego and Jim Miller and Cowboy. And, you know, I would have to agree that I think Cowboy is way further away from retirement day than Diego Sanchez. It's kind of seemed like Diego Sanchez was on his way out and could have called it 2 or 3 fights ago, but they're letting a legend live out his last few days. And the one thing I really liked that the UFC was doing was they were giving him competitive matches. Even though he was a little bit outclassed in all of his last few matches, and he got that weird win through like an illegal knee
from
and,
Michel Pereira.
He wasn't really, able to hang with the new breed of fighters, but they weren't just like throwing him to the wolves. So I kind of liked that they found level competition for him to compete with, and they could kind of let him taper out of the industry. And I like that. But, when you're promised one last fight for Diego Sanchez and then everything that's not really involving Diego happens and it's kind of out of his power, and that's the reason we don't get to see him fight again, it's a little bit sad. I kind of feel like the sweet side of the bittersweet situation is that he's not going to take any more punishment now. I don't really see him getting signed to other organizations. I don't think they're going to be chomping at the bit to pick up Diego. And if they are, maybe it's for a one-fight thing. But I just think Diego has done enough for the sport where we don't really need to see him do anything else. The sad side is that we don't get to see Diego do anything else. I mean, he's always doing things that are, in today's world would be considered going viral. But he's been doing it. Diego's been doing Diego since The Ultimate Fighter 1. So I feel like some people in his camp, his coach, his doctors and stuff like that, maybe should have been a little bit more upfront, not only with us, but with him as well. And we would have seen a cleaner exit out of the sport. But it is what it is, and that's why we're here now.
Yeah, and I'll also add that if something is truly actually wrong with Diego, come out and say it. Because it's your job as a head coach or an attorney or some sort of figure that's looking out for the best interest of your client to look out and do exactly that, to look out for their best interest. And if Diego is in fact suffering from some sort of long-term illness or injury or neurological something that's going on from all the trauma. I mean, he's 19-13 in the UFC.
And has put on some of the best shows of all time. And when we say best, we usually mean most punches thrown, most ridiculous.
Those are 30-plus wars. Diego Sanchez doesn't have a boring fight. When you've been in that many wars, in the early days of the UFC, I mean, he was training back in the day when training meant sparring 6 days a week. I mean, so Diego Sanchez, we would be fools to say that he's not taken a substantial amount of head trauma in his day. The thing that unfortunately kind of overshadowed the end of Diego's career for me was his coach, this Joshua Fabia character who owns the School of Self-Awareness there in New Mexico. Obviously, Diego was with Jackson Wink, which is one of the best camps that there is, produced arguably the greatest MMA fighter of all time, John Jones, and many other champions that, we could sit here and do a whole video talking about all of them. He had his reasons for leaving Jackson. He left and he found this guy, Fabia. And Fabia is supposed to be some sort of guru, massage coach, mental guy,
health and
wellness guy.
Yeah.
It's very strange to me that a coach is making as much headlines as this Fabia character is, especially when you consider the fact that he's getting more headlines than Trevor Whitman, who just had 2 fighters win championship belts at UFC 261. So to me, there's a problem with that. To me, it almost seems a bit self-serving, like he's trying to promote himself, like he's trying to build his own brand. But when you're saying things in the corner, like, first of all, he forgets the stool. He's trying to coach Diego in between rounds, forgets the stool for Diego to sit down. And then he's saying things like, be Tyson, be Tyson. I assume he's talking about Mike Tyson. I have no idea what that means. I think our guess is as good as anybody's. He's had issues with Dana. He's gotten in arguments with Matt Serra. He just had it out with Paul Felder, Megan O'Leary, and the rest of the team, kind of attacking them unfairly, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think, unfortunately, Diego kind of allowed the end of his career to go astray because of some of the people that he put around him that were supposed to protect him. And in reality, I think, unfortunately, they might have done just the opposite.
Yeah, and it's weird, when you go from Jackson Wink to basically an unknown coach, it's almost like there's something wrong. Something is afoot when you see a guy, a legend, that goes from a legendary gym to a no-name gym that honestly seems like a McDojo of that's just what when we watch it on the internet, we see people coaching these Tai Chi type of things.
Right.
You just kind of laugh at it, but then to see one of the legends of the sport kind of drinking the Kool-Aid from one of these people, you're like, what is going on? There's something is up with this. And this guy, Josh Fabia, I don't know him. I don't know much about him. He must just be one of those guys that can, sell a product, even if that product is himself and his skills really well. And he was able to, convince Diego that he was the guy that was going to help him. And I guess turn his career around, turn the end of his career around. So
at almost 40, that would be a long shot. And I'll give Fabia the benefit of the doubt. I truly don't think that he's trying to do anything disingenuous. When he's yelling at Felder and O'Leary and John Anik, I mean, those are 3 people that are as professional as it gets. You know what I mean? To get into some sort of argument with them, and he was filming the whole thing. That was
weird.
Just bizarre. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that I think this is a guy where we may have a case of somebody who drank a bit too much of his own Kool-Aid rather than somebody who's doing something disingenuous. Yeah. And I hope that's the case. I hope I'm right.
I feel like he's definitely got Diego's best interest in mind. He just doesn't know how to steer that ship and navigate through this situation. And he's kind of leaving the city on fire as he's, riding off on his horse. It's a very strange thing. And, Diego Sanchez, like we were saying, if they would have said that, due to medical purposes, he can't pass the test, the physical, and we don't feel he's, capable of competing again, we would all be able to say, okay, well, Diego gave us enough for the sport. We don't need to. But to have the fight lined up and then get the fight pulled away, and what we're told is that, his doctor was, not fully transparent, and his coach then got in a
his
fight.
His lawyer, which was even weirder.
Yeah.
Doctor would have made more sense.
Right. So his lawyer was being a little not so transparent. His coach was like arguing with the people that called the fights. It was just a weird thing. And I feel bad for Diego because, as he ages and as his life continues and he moves into the next chapter, he's going to want to have had that one last fight. He's going to want to have been able to retire in the octagon, so to speak. And he's not going to be able to get that. And I honestly think we've seen Diego compete for the last time. I don't really see, other organizations trying to sign him, after all of this.
I wish I agreed with you on that. Yeah. I think that I would love for that to be the case, but one thing we know is he posted something free at last on Twitter and tagged One Championship, Bellator, and bare knuckle. Now, I don't think that One Championship or Bellator are going to give Diego Sanchez. No. They're trying to establish themselves as legitimate organizations. One Championship, I'll remind you, is the organization where one of their fighters just KO'd Mighty Mouse.
Yeah.
Eddie Alvarez has a losing record in One Championship. So it's not like you just go to One Championship and start winning fights all of a sudden.
And Bellator just turned down Anderson Silva.
Exactly.
Who looked much better in his last fight in the UFC than Diego Sanchez looked in his last fight.
But bare knuckle fighting championships, their MO thus far is they've been signing big names who put on exciting fights and in a lot of cases past their prime fighters. I'm thinking of a fight night in Biloxi, Mississippi, where the headliner is Diego Sanchez versus God knows who in a bare knuckle brawl. I think there's a market for that. I personally hope it doesn't happen, but I could very well see a set of circumstances by which Diego Sanchez signs with bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah, and I hadn't been on.
And I hated saying
that.
I was literally angry with myself as I'm saying that, but I could see it happen.
Yeah, you don't want to speak it into the universe, but at some point, you have to just realize that these are grown adults. They're humans. They're going to make their own decisions, and if that's the direction Diego wants to go, I hope he gets a lot of views and makes a lot of money doing it. But at the same time, I really don't want to see a legend take a beating, and at this point, to jump into a sport that he has never done before, which is safe to say bare knuckle boxing is a sport he has not done before. I know he's used to combat sports and doing MMA and training all kinds of martial arts, but bare knuckle is a totally different sport, and I would just hate for bare knuckle to try to build some of their new stars or new up and comers off of a legend like Diego Sanchez. But if that's what you said he posted, I believe that actually will probably happen.
Unfortunately. And, we see this, a lot of fighters go this way, that stay around a little bit too long. BJ Penn, and, we see him really take some unnecessary beatings at the end of his career and then get into street fights, and a video will surface of him getting knocked out in a parking lot somewhere. And you just, as somebody who trains martial arts, I mean, obviously I don't have near the training experience or depth of training of any of these people that we talk about on this show, but as somebody who respects the sport and has been around it for a long time, to see these legends sort of go awry at the end of their career when they're pushing 40, whether it be financial necessity or just not knowing when to call it quits. I hate to see it sometimes.
Me too.
Well, guys, let us know in the comments. What do you think about Diego Sanchez and the UFC parting ways? Should this be the last we see of Diego Sanchez, or do you guys have an appetite to see him in another organization, possibly even some bare knuckle action? Let us know in the comments. We always love engaging with you guys there. And if you've enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on audio where you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, guys.
Peace.